one true God, or man will worship a lie.
All right, everybody, let's not forget. Let's welcome the lovely Summer to the show.
The lovely Summer is here again. We need a variation on that applause, I think.
That's the new one. I had a better one before. That's our live studio audience. They're just right over there.
They're in the corner.
Embedded in the wall. Yeah. You know, for instance, folks, our friends over at the New American just put this. This is their new edition of the New American magazine. We're going to look at some of the stuff in there tonight. Also, Trump's tweet: "World's most powerful reset, President DJT." And boy, this seems to have gotten folks on our side of the fence quite perturbed. Feathers are ruffled. Mm-hmm. What is he talking about? Is this the same thing that Klaus Schwab was talking about? We'll look at that. But before we do that, let's bring some levity. Before we get to Ami Kozak, I just saw this. I have no idea what it is, but Javier Milei, the nationalist, populist, I don't know, are they presidents in Argentina? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
President of Argentina. Something is going on here. We're all going to watch this for the first time together. I couldn't resist when I saw the thumbnail. Let's see what it, because he's quite a character, right? He's Wolverine, right, Summer?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just look. Is he Wolverine? Is Javier Milei Wolverine? Get off of there. There we go. Wow, nothing's working over here. But is that not Javier Milei right there?
Very similar.
You know, pretty close. Let's see what he's doing here. He is a musician too, so they say. Yeah, this is going to be it's going to be tough because of the music. Let me mute it, and then we'll just wait for Javi. Oh, yep. So this is Israel marks 78
Javi
years.
has chops.
Yeah. So he's in Israel celebrating. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Javier Milei.
Many talents.
A lot of energy, that's for sure. But then also, who's this? Who is this guy? We have a clip of Tucker talking about his demon possession. I'll show you that in just a second, too.
Well, why don't we play that after the first clip that I've been wanting you to play?
This is the one that we want to show you. All right, let's just dump it. Let's dump into it.
And so, I certainly campaigned for the president. I supported him. I really did. And I'm implicated in this for sure. I am. And I regret it. Totally regret it. Well, what would you say is your main issue now with President Trump? Well, because Donald Trump and Bibi, by the way, have just constantly
Sorry, guys.
focused on Israel. They've just obsessed day in and day out. The president has made his entire message, his entire narrative is about Israel, 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 and just obsessed with the issues of a foreign nation. And that's shameful. It's disgusting. And they just made every single effort to divide the base and confuse the base and break up the coalition of MAGA and weaken conservatives in this country. They've done everything they can to mislead people about the history of this country, which is my country. And I just hate it. I hate it. I really do. I hate it. I'm sorry, I hate it. And so that's shameful.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but to continue to be hyper-focused and fixated on a foreign nation while not providing any constructive answers or solutions to fix our country, to fix this nation, which is my country, which is a Christian country, to not provide any actual solutions, I mean, that's shameful. That's evil, and I hate it as a white person, as a Christian, as a man. I hate that. And anyone who does that, Trump or Bibi, doing that, they should be shamed. They should be condemned because it's shameful and it's evil. And I hate it. I mean, you're kind of describing yourself. I know. I hate myself.
Oh, all right.
I do. I really do. I hate myself. Totally hate myself. And by the way, nothing against Bibi. And I love our president. But I hate myself.
Yeah, we all hated you. The whole family.
I do.
A little levity.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy how dead on he is with that.
Yeah, he's an amazing impersonator. We thought you guys might enjoy that.
Yeah, Ami Kozak on Substack on X. You find him there
On YouTube.
Yeah, did I not say? What did I say? Substack.
You said Substack
Probably.
and X.
Yeah, I'm out of it. Okay, you sent me that link. Here they are. Gosh, I keep hitting the same one. The Unlimited Hangout. Here it is, Tucker Carlson links. There we go. All right, here we go, folks. This is Tucker talking about his, well, you'll see what he's talking about. This might explain a lot about what we've seen out of Tucker. What this is us. What is this link? Oh my goodness. Wow, everything is just flying off the handle here. Copy link address. Let's just drop it right here. Okay, this will work now. Yeah, here we go.
Did it.
It said the Jews did it.
In a spiritual attack by a demon?
Yeah, by a demon.
Do you think the presence of evil is kickstarting people to wonder about the good?
That's what happened to me.
That's what happened to you?
Oh yeah, I had a direct experience with it.
In the milieu of journalism or just...
Nope, in my bed at night, and I got attacked while I was asleep with my wife and 4 dogs in the bed and mauled. Physically mauled.
In a spiritual attack by a demon?
Yeah, by a demon. Or by something unseen that left
Is that right?
claw marks on my sides, on my...
So it left physical marks.
Oh, they're still there. Yeah. A year and a half ago.
Was your wife terrified?
Year and a
I know
half
you
ago.
were.
Tommy,
I wasn't. I was
right?
totally confused. I woke up and I couldn't breathe, and I thought I was going to suffocate. And I walked around outside, and then I walked in, and my wife and dogs had not woken up, and they're very light sleepers. And then I had these terrible pains on my rib cage and on my shoulder, and I was just in my boxer shorts, and I went and flipped on the light in the bathroom, and I had 4 claw marks on either side underneath my arms and on my left shoulder, and they're bleeding.
Wait, they were bleeding?
They're bleeding, yeah. But
You didn't try to refute the spiritual part in your own mind. You went right into the...
Well, it didn't make any sense, and it doesn't now. But I'm not from a, what do they call it, faith tradition that talks about things like that or even acknowledges their existence. Like, there's nothing like that. I've never heard anybody say anything like that in my whole life.
What was the next day like?
Well, the next morning I woke up and I thought, that was the weirdest dream I've ever had. And then I saw blood on my sheets, and I realized that was not a dream at all. I called my assistant, who was like the only evangelical Christian I know.
And so then that presence of that evil launches something.
Oh, I think maybe it did. So, what do you think, folks? Here in the live chat.
Well, he also claimed that he still has the scar to this day.
That's what he said.
From that incident. Yeah, that's pretty creepy. I always heard about that, but I never heard him talk about it. I've always heard people discuss this.
I've heard him mention it several times.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that where Tucker Carlson is concerned, I get angry at him a lot today, but I think it's important that we, at this time, that we pray for him.
Yes, we're supposed to pray for our enemies. Mm-hmm.
And the reason is, well, the reason is obvious. It's the same reason we pray for people. But
he just really, like, the more he talks, the more he reveals why he could be in the situation that he's in, because he doesn't have, he clearly doesn't really read the Bible, or he hasn't studied scripture, because when he opens his mouth, it's very clear he's not doing that. He's not reading scripture.
Yeah, let me explain it to you the way I see this. And that is that he is convinced, as are others, that he's called Trump the Antichrist. He's done that recently. There we go.
Yeah, and I mean, to be clear, guys, he could definitely be like some sort of plant or some sort of, asset. I mean, all of that is possible, but even so, or maybe somebody has nudes of Tucker and he doesn't want to be destroyed. Maybe they've threatened his life. We don't know. But certainly the way that he's acting is putting all of that aside, there's something really wrong. There's something really, really wrong. So, for sure.
Yeah, here's what
we have to pray for him.
And we should. And the way I see it is, the people who are saying that Trump betrayed them, that he betrayed his campaign promises, I want you to try to think about it this way. When you look at Donald Trump today, is he vastly different than he was during the campaign, 2024?
No, he's doing exactly what he said he would do, which is very actually unusual for politicians.
He's the same person, in other words. He's the same person now that he was then. So it's not as though we have a completely different Trump now.
No, and people don't seem to understand that America First involves doing all the stuff that he's doing right now.
Right, we'll get to that.
We've talked about that
but
ad
the point,
nauseum at this point.
The point I want to make is this. Tucker Carlson in 2024 was on the campaign trail, as he said in the video. Actually, we should probably show that too, because he's in his son Buckley was working in J.D. Vance's office. Buckley was writing speeches for the president, on the campaign for the candidate. And they were both sitting there when Tucker did an interview with his son, Buckley, because he no longer works for J.D. Vance. And they were giving the administration a pretty hard time. Mm-hmm. Epstein files and Iran and all this. And Tucker apologized for leading people down the path to vote for Trump.
He tried to, he's trying to feign some sort of, I really care and I'm really sorry.
So my point is this. Who, when you look at Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson, and you compare these two people from, let's just say, October 2024 to April 2026, who's different? Who has changed their positions?
It's Tucker that's changed.
As far as you could possibly expect someone to change, and he just keeps going.
And he's been doing that anyway. He's been having revisionist history people on. He had, he talked about Christianity being socialism. Like he's been on a downward spiral for quite a while now, before the Iran war thing.
Listen to this.
Kicked off. So
this will come as an interesting surprise to everyone. Do you know who just lost one of his biggest supporters over the ongoing war in Iran? Far-right commentator Tucker Carlson says he regrets ever helping to put you-know-who in the White House. Take a look.
You and I and everyone else who supported him, you wrote speeches for him, I campaigned for him. I mean, we're implicated in this for sure.
Yes.
It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind, or like, oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's like, in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now.
Yes.
So I do think it's like a moment to wrestle with our own consciences. We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be. And I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people. It was not intentional.
Ooh, goodness, what is that? Anyway, so So his apology is for encouraging people to vote for Donald Trump. His apology is not for whatever, name it, that he's done in the last 3 months or so.
Well, it's been going on longer than that, but yeah.
So this is quite a shift. So I ask you once again, folks, consider, has Donald Trump changed? Or have the people who supported him and have turned now,
have they been psyoped?
Are they the ones that have changed?
Well, it's like all assets deployed, and so they're doing everything they can to try to make the Trump administration look bad.
Here's what someone posted yesterday. Tucker Carlson is sadly advancing arguments that oppose biblical truth and align with what Scripture describes as deception. Those positions reflect what the Bible calls the spirit of Antichrist, whether knowingly or not. Regardless of intent, the ideas being promoted contradict the gospel and should be rejected. Colossians 2:8. See to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and vain deceit, empty deceit, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the world, and not according to Christ. Pray for the lost. And that's the category that we see Tucker in now, the lost. And that's because that is because Christians bear fruit. How do we know who our fellow Christians are in the world? How do we know one another? Jesus told us that we would know one another by love. Mm-hmm. And we're also taught that we would recognize one another by our fruits.
Yeah.
Fruits of the Spirit.
If you have not love,
you're noisy.
Vain janglings.
You're a noisy gong. And so we should pray for the guy. But, in the meantime, he's doing a lot of damage to what we're saying is a real movement for a return to sovereignty.
Yeah.
American sovereignty, the American system, which means independence, which means to finally finish the Revolutionary War.
What people need to understand is that hating the Trump administration is the ultimate thing that the globalists are focused on, because it's the Trump administration that is dismantling the rules-based order and the globalist system. So, of course, they have to demonize the Trump administration. If it were some other president, they'd be attacking that president also. And that's how it's historically been. Any president in America's history that was trying to enact the American system of political economy has come under fire. So, and
yes, they have.
Many have lost their lives
historically.
As well.
Yeah. At least two of them were assassinated, specifically because they were trying to disentangle the country from, Britain.
British free trade.
From the imperial system.
British free trade. That is what the United States is trying to break free from right now. And so we've basically totally done it. I mean, we've actually done it. It's just that the psychological operation is so overwhelming. Yeah. That is going to be the biggest barrier and challenge, is getting people to understand that they need to come out and vote in the midterms. They need to stay involved. Don't tune out.
So this is the cover of the new issue of the New American magazine, Conspiracy for Global Control. And there's some articles in here. Here's another one from Unlimited Hangout. You scanned this, right? I'll read this intro here. In this two-part article series, Ian Davis examines how a class of Silicon Valley oligarchs have set about destabilizing the planet in order to achieve their goal of a multipolar world interconnected by smart city-states, that is, a regionalized world that they and their oligarch partners will rule as neo-feudal monarchs. In part one, Davis focuses on the deceit this oligarch network is using to drag us all to ruin, how it is controlling the Trump administration. There's the claim. Whilst part two will focus on their neocolonial ambitions in the Middle East. So the claim is here, and we see the claim here as well.
It's the talking
point. In
point.
New American, we see it as well, that what in fact is happening is Trump says, well, it's the most powerful Great Reset, that this is a continuation of the New World Order,
right?
The globalist order.
Right.
I'm going to give you an argument tonight from the evidence that that's not true, that that's false.
Yeah, and think about it.
Part of this argument will also make the point that we are not naive triumphalists. In other words, we're not hoping and we're not just wishing this to be true. The evidence is there. So this argument that you hear that Trump is a globalist and he's continuing or building the technocratic system, regionalism, it is false on its face. It is false because of the evidence.
Yeah.
We're not saying that those systems, that movement isn't still there and trying. But we'll get to that. Now, what were you going to?
I was just going to point out that what a great deception, right? To preload everybody's subconscious mind through all of the chatter and the storytelling and the books that have been written and people talking about the Great Reset and anticipating it, and all of the truth community that's been out there talking about this, anticipating it, saying, here it is, this is the Sustainable Development Goals, all of that. So it's like, you've basically been given a map. And so when you're looking at this map, you're going, oh, this means that, and that means that, and this means that. But you're misinterpreting it because you've been trained to think of it in this particular way, right? But actually, we do have an administration that's come in and is saying, no, we don't want to do that. And I'm just pointing out that psychologically, just be open to the fact that that's a really smart strategy to sit there and say, like, that you can't even recognize something that's actually good happening right in front of your eyes because you're so trained in on, oh, he's just one of them. This is just more of the same. He's their puppet. He's wrecking everything so that they can bring in the final, totalitarian system. And so that's what's happening. I think a lot of our friends are stuck back in that old paradigm, and we're not there anymore. Things have changed. We're actually trying to break away from the British Empire free trade oligarchical system.
The American system, when it's rightly understood, the American system of economics, and the reason we're talking about economics is because that is the weapon. That is what the satanic globalist cabal, whatever you'd like to label it as, that's what they've been using.
Well, in order to meet your needs, your Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
And so the American system, which is opposed to that,
right,
when it's rightly understood, reflects biblical principles, right? So let's see. Let's look at, before I get into the argument, let's look at a few of these claims. And you've also got an article responding to Patrick Wood.
And by the way, just notice when we go through these articles real quick, because we're just going to skim through them just to show you that these are talking points coming from an intelligence agency, guaranteed 1,000%. I'm convinced. I used to be in advertising. I know how propaganda works. The fact that all of these people are out there with reoccurring talking points that are basically saying the same thing, this is not a coincidence. This is coming from somewhere.
Right. And what Summer's saying here is, right, you recognize a lot of the same terms.
Yeah.
Phrasing.
Yeah. Terms, phrasing, pejoratives.
So what I want to get across to people tonight, and the thing I'm going to focus on from my chair, is optimism. There are two, when you talk about people who are opposed to globalism, at least they profess to be opposed to globalism. At this point in time, there are two camps. There's the optimistic view, who believes the administration is dismantling it. And there's the other side, which is the pessimistic view. Nothing has changed. Trump is just one of them, and he is continuing it. In fact, he is going to finish it.
He's the Trojan horse.
Right. So optimistic view versus the pessimistic view. And we're going to give you the optimistic view from the evidence. Here's what Ian Davis writes here before I get to the
optimistic
other stuff.
view, which happens to be the realistic view.
It is.
The one based in reality.
It is realism, and that's part of the argument. Ian Davis says in his latest book, he explores the influence of a powerful collective of Silicon Valley oligarchs. So this is one of the primary elements of this argument that you hear from Patrick Wood as well, is that it's Silicon Valley that controls Trump. Some will say it's Israel that controls Trump.
That Vance is controlled by them.
Others will say the globalists control Trump. Okay. These oligarchs. Now, our argument to you is that this is what Trump is actually fighting. This is who the war is with. That would be the imperial system. That would be those who, and this has been going on for 250 years. It goes, as we shall see, have captured and now effectively control the second Trump administration. Is that true? And how do we know? How can we test whether that's true? We look at the state papers. We look at the policy statements that have been put out, and we look at the actions and from the administration. Are they consistent with their policy statements, with their goals and strategy? And what are those strategies? And are their strategies globalist or actually America first? That's what I'll show you. All right, they like to go by many names: accelerationists, neo-reactionaries, technocrats, the tech bros, techno kings, CEO dictators, and more. We can now add Praxians into the mix. Okay? Though personally, I prefer neo-nerds.
I mean, this is just, honestly, this is so goofy goober. But the way that it's done, I mean, this is,
it's very plausible.
Limited hangout. This is Whitney Webb. This is this whole crew of people that I'm telling you guys, these people are not
right. And this is another one of the reasons. This will be another one of the reasons why Armor of Truth remains isolated,
toiling in the
not because we want to be, not because we're trying to be, but we have a commitment to you. The few who take the time,
and a fear of the Lord,
the few who take the time to read the archive that Summer has created for you on Substack, and the few of you who choose to listen to our shows and our podcasts. By the way, you can find the True Normal podcast. That is, these shows are available over on your whichever podcast platform. I haven't said that enough. I haven't reminded people that you can listen to this too if you want to listen while you're driving. It's easier. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Okay. And it usually comes out a day or so after the live show. Now, and Courtney Turner back last summer, I think it was, released her article, The Phoenix Conspiracy, which has the same argument. But hers, she threw into the mix the Doug Wilson. She threw in
Theo Bros.
Christians. She threw in certain Christians.
Protestant Christians.
Saying that there is a Christian element. Patrick Wood called it the three-legged stool.
Yes, that were
the three-legged
Pete
stool.
Hegseth is conspiring and stocking weapons to take over and make it a handmaid's tale.
Exactly. That's the argument that was made. And what we showed you, we have a series of videos on that topic, because it was when they start talking about the church, they start talking about Christianity, and particularly Reformed Christianity, Baptists and Presbyterians. That's our lane.
Yeah.
And the claims she was making were nothing more. In fact, she was good to give you her sources. And when you follow through on her sources for that claim,
leftist
it was
sources.
Mother Jones. Mm-hmm. It came from Mother Jones.
Yeah. And then 3 weeks later, I kept saying, this sounds exactly like something coming out of the Atlantic and CNN. And literally 3 weeks later, CNN had Pamela Brown and did a whole segment on Doug Wilson. And
we did that show,
and we did that too. Yeah, so we've been covering this.
So, yeah, she was going with Courtney Turner and Patrick Wood are saying that it's the Christian nationalists.
Mm-hmm. We want to bring about this.
The three-legged stool is, the technocrats, the oligarchs, and the Christians.
And then on the truther side, it's like, oh, that this is the false light. Like they're trying to say that Charlie Kirk's event was the false light.
We dealt with that too, didn't we?
This memorial.
Yeah. So let's look just for a moment here at Patrick Wood's article. I'm going to read the first of it and then the last of it. And I don't know has this been released yet? It's released on May 1st, right? It comes out officially on May 1st. If you want to subscribe to New American, you can get it early.
Well, that one looks like it's written by William Jasper.
Yeah, I've got the wrong one. Here it is. This is it. Okay, this is from Patrick Wood. But yeah, it'll be out officially on May 1st. So this is called the End Game of Technocracy. The end game of technocracy is upon us. So let me first, I wanted to share this verse with you. On the last live stream, I was here by myself, and I did a exegetical breakdown of Micah chapter 7, verse 8. Here it is. Do not gloat over me, my enemy. Though I have fallen, I will arise. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light. And what this means, and the very quick takeaway, I encourage you to watch that stream, particularly the second half. The last 25 minutes or so, we go verse by verse or line by line, word by word. What does the Lord intend for us to take from this text? The quick summary is this. Judgment comes. God judges his people. He judges his own people. Israelites are under judgment at this time. That's the underlying context of Micah. It was difficult to find anyone faithful among the Israelites. The leaders were corrupt. There was a lack of faith. Times looked dark, and Israel's enemies and the people also believed that it was over, that their enemies were too powerful and they could not be overcome, and it was inevitable. Their fall was inevitable. Their enemies believed it, and they believed it. And the message here is endurance, patience, steadfastness. God judges his people, but the beauty of it is when you're under judgment, and America has been under judgment for quite a while, clearly. If you can't see that, you're really not paying attention. But see, faithfulness requires us to realize that when you recognize you're under judgment, you must know that God's promises are true, that God is faithful, that he will restore you. You must be faithful, but that he will restore his people. And how do we respond? We be faithful stewards of God's good gifts. And if being born in America, being born with liberty is a good gift of God, then we need to steward that faithfully. We need to tell the truth. We need to be optimistic, right? This is what I want to get across to you. On our board back here, I guess we finally erased it, but we had on our whiteboard where we prepare shows at the top of it, it says reasons for hope. Don't ever forget, don't ever fail to give people reasons for hope, because that's typically not what you find on the internet today and in social media.
And remember the joy of the Lord.
Yeah, be a joyful warrior when you're in battle, whatever kind of battle it is. But yeah, we're not pessimistic people. We haven't been given a spirit of fear. So I'll come back to this in just a minute. Well, let's read through this for just a second, and let me. I wanted to make sure that. Yeah. Okay. I keep losing it. There it is. Technocracy. This is from Patrick Wood in the New American magazine for May. Technocracy is now threatening your freedom and privacy. The argument we've made, and in fact, our motto, what do we call that? Our tagline or motto?
Our tagline. Truth in the age of technocracy.
Truth in the age of technocracy, scientism, and pop atheism.
That's been our tagline since we opened Armor of Truth as a nonprofit.
Before that.
And before that, you had that.
So what does that mean? Faith in the age of technocracy. Technocracy has been here for 50 plus years.
Yeah.
What you see being criticized today as Trump's establishment of a technocratic empire is, in fact, just the opposite. The evidence will show that. We have the receipts, the primary sources, the evidence to show it. It's really hard to figure how a venerable veteran like Patrick Wood, who exposed the Trilateral Commission while most of us were in diapers.
I was not even born, barely.
So it's hard to figure how.
Well,
he
it
could
is though.
How he could miss this. Well, I'm gonna be generous. I'm just gonna assume that he's missed it instead of.
But think about this: bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. I mean, of course they're going to try to make the thing that's good for us look like the thing that's bad for us.
Yeah.
So think of it that way too. I mean, just to boil it all down.
I'll read this that I wrote. We haven't published it, but I wrote it a while back. The problem is this: the paradigm on which Patrick Wood's excellent research in the 20th century was based has shifted massively and is barreling toward, if not already crossing the Rubicon. That system of sovereignty, devouring imperial oligarchy you rightly and expertly exposed in the late 70s, early 80s with the trilaterals over Washington with Anthony Sutton. And thank you for that. Happens to be the very same system being dismantled right now, right in front of your eyes. So I would think that Wood, the folks, I guess at least some of the folks over at the New American and the folks at Unlimited Hangout, Ian Davis, Whitney Webb. By the way, just to be honest, Whitney Webb and Ian Davis, their work is it's good in what it. You know, if you want to...
It's science fiction.
If you want to delve into the darkness and understand how a lot of things work...
There's also a lot of loose connections.
There are never any solutions. Buy crypto, maybe? It lacks solutions. It is a black-pilled movement. So I would think that they would be overjoyed today to see what's actually happening. But that's not the case.
No, in fact, they're telling you that this is more of the same. And so, I mean,
Yeah. The technocratic threats include the digital control grid, transhumanism, social credit scoring, and artificial intelligence. Yes, those things are true. We still have time to push back against these converging threats. So how do we push back against it? Patrick Wood, I have invited Patrick Wood, not that he would have heard it. I'll have a chance Monday to invite him to a much bigger audience that on a show that he watches, and I will invite him again to debate this. How do we push back against these converging threats? I'll tell you how we push back against them. I'll tell you that in just a minute when I get you to my argument. Most Americans sense that something is deeply wrong. Now, this starts out, right? Yeah, of course. Everybody realizes that things are mixed up. Things are crazy, right? They feel it in the creeping surveillance, the algorithms that seem to know what they're thinking before they think it, the cashless payment systems that track every purchase, the facial recognition cameras that multiply like mushrooms after rain. They feel it, but they cannot name it. Indeed, they feel it, but they cannot name it. In the same sense, if a genuine movement that was pushing back on that or dismantling that came along, would they be able to name that? How would they know if a genuine movement in opposition to the technocracy came along? How would they know? How would they recognize it? They reach for familiar labels, like big government, big tech, socialism, fascism, but none of them quite fits. That's because what is being constructed around them is none of those things. It is something older in conception and newer in execution than any of these ideologies. It is technocracy. And Patrick Wood says here again, he spent nearly 50 years researching globalization and technocracy, beginning in 1977 when he co-authored Trilaterals Over Washington with the late Professor Anthony C. Sutton. Across 6 books and hundreds of articles, I have traced a single unbroken thread from the 1934 Technocracy study course written by engineers at Columbia University. And that is the this is, Ian Davis and Whitney Webb and Courtney and Patrick and many others identify this, that technocracy or the Technocracy Party that started at Columbia University in 1934, they've identified that as the same system that Trump is completing today. The question is that true? Does that claim hold up under scrutiny? That group back then, as he says here, believed they could replace capitalism, private property, and representative government with a scientifically managed society. So here again, you see the idea put forward that there are 2 systems and 2 systems only, capitalism and communism. Those are the only 2 real competing systems in the world. But there's one that has been obfuscated for how long? I mean, it's over 100 years now, right? But when remember the book, I can't remember who it was, that was suppressed.
Yeah.
That was about the American system of economics.
Yeah. It was found again in the 70s.
Anti-imperial.
And they still try to suppress it.
Right. So it's not the case that the United States in its heyday was a free market capitalist system and that's it. It was the American system. Elements of capitalism, for sure. But it was anti-imperial, anti-free trade. Mm-hmm. Over the last 50 years, maybe the last 80 years, that has been broken down. And America has been under leaders and administrations who have put forth the policies of free trade. And since the 1970s, in earnest since the 1980s, we've been under the policy of managed decline or controlled disintegration.
Degrowth.
And I could be wrong, but I haven't found where Patrick he talks about the CFR a lot, and he's done a good job. But have we recognized that they're the ones who created the policy of controlled disintegration that became official policy under Carter?
You are much more diplomatic about this than I am. I mean, for me, it makes me very upset and, angry that they're doing this. They're just turning a blind eye to all of the changes, the blatant changes that this administration has done to disrupt this system. Yeah. They're just going to ignore it and act like, no, it's only this. This is the only thing that's happening.
So he says what comes here in this article are 4 principal mechanisms by which technocracy is now threatening your freedom and privacy. It is the digital control grid. That would be digital currency and surveillance and transhumanism. The push to live forever, to make, to upload consciousness.
It's like, yeah, you can do really evil things with technology if you've got somebody who's evil who's wielding it. But,
Yeah. Genetic engineering, CRISPR gene editing technology, social credit scores, the gamification of obedience. Many of these ideas we have certainly covered in our own way as well, especially gamification. And artificial intelligence, the management brain, the system that will control it all. And of course, we hear a lot about Peter Thiel and how this is who they're claiming is controlling Trump. Peter Thiel, the Silicon Valley tech bros. Courtney Turner's argument was that it was the Silicon Valley tech bros and people like Doug Wilson, the Christian nationalist. And the reason they say that is because there has been this rise in Silicon Valley of a form of Christianity, right? Peter Thiel doing his revelation. They call them sermons, but
yeah, and then also in there too, he throws in ICE, like Palantir with ICE.
Yeah.
So, it's just this blending. It's like we're just going to make these loose connections. We're not going to back up anything that we've said. We're just going to tell you that this is how it works without proving it to you.
What is that statement that you read earlier, that you had written, that you read to me earlier, that you shared with me? From Baboof.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Anyway, about that we're throwing a lot of names and ideas at you, but we're never actually dealing with this administration and what it is they're actually doing. Now, of course, I'm sure they'll make the claim that in one form or fashion, the implication is that this administration, that Trump and this administration are finishing this job. All right, I'll make this argument in just a minute. I'm going. This is. There are a lot of facts here. There are a lot of things you can learn about. One of the presuppositions here in Wood's writing seems to be that technology is the primary tool of evil, that it's irredeemable, that the institutions themselves are irredeemable. And there's a problem with that claim, but let's finish this. The four mechanisms, digital control, transhumanism, social credit scoring, artificial intelligence, are not developing in parallel. They are converging. The digital control grid provides the infrastructure. Transhumanism integrates the human body into the infrastructure. Social credit scoring provides the behavioral enforcement mechanism. Yes, it's true. All of these things could certainly be used for that. Mm-hmm. All right. And AI provides the management brain that ties it all together into a unified system of surveillance, prediction, and control. And of course, it is Peter Thiel and Palantir that will be that brain. A lot of people are saying.
Which is funny because it's like, well, where's Davos in all of this?
Right. The convergence is not accidental. It is a fulfillment of a design that was laid out 90 years ago. Is it though? Is it the fulfillment of that movement? Because I'm not convinced that this is the fulfillment of the technocracy party of the 1930s.
Again, notice how all of the demonization has to do with Americans. Yeah. It doesn't have to do with what's in Europe, the EU, any of those people over there, City of London. No, we're just going to ignore all that.
Now, of course, much of this is on the money, right? That the idea anyway would be that there would be a ruling class. Remember, the Fabian Society believed that mankind needed an aristocracy to rule it because they knew what was best for the world. George Bernard Shaw, right? I've got to play you that George Bernard Shaw clip. Anyway, the technology has finally caught up to the blueprint. So the assumption here is that this technology inevitably will be used to enslave you. All right. What the original technocrats could only dream about in the age of punch cards and slide rules, their intellectual descendants can now implement with blockchain, biometrics, and artificial intelligence. No doubt. They certainly could. So the question before us is not whether the system can be built. It is being built. The question is whether we will recognize it for what it is before it becomes irreversible. The labels keep changing. Sustainable development, Green New Deal, the Great Reset, Fourth Industrial Revolution, the Board of Peace.
Yep. Now they want to just claim that the Board of Peace is the same thing.
There's the Board of Peace.
Which it's not.
There's that argument. It could be, right? It could be. As it stands, as it exists today, it is not. Now they will point to Gaza because the Board of Peace and the plan for Gaza is to build up Gaza as a technological city, to establish it, to establish infrastructure and economy.
Right, so that they can turn it loose back to them
so
in
that
around 10 years.
Yeah, so that the people who lived there can come back, or the people who lived there would have an opportunity to work and lift themselves up through work, through being a part of an economy.
Well, that whole region would be, would profit from that. Peace through construction.
Which is the motto. And sustainable development. They use the term. But they define the term much differently. They define the term as based in sovereignty. Sustainable meaning that the people can, if they will, sustain this new place through investing and working in it. All right, the architecture does not change. Total registration, continuous inventory, individual tracking, centralized distribution, no holdouts, no opt-outs from birth to death. Americans have a narrow window in which to push back. Again, I want to challenge Patrick Wood, if I could have the opportunity, is how do we push back? Because I see the mechanism for us to push back right in front of us today, and I see these folks charging that administration with being the finisher of the technocratic movement.
Yep.
And that is false.
Yep.
That window requires understanding. Agreed. Understanding what, though? You cannot fight what you cannot name, and now you can name it. It is technocracy. It has always been technocracy. So I ask you, now you can fight back because you know technocracy exists. What are you going to do? Are you going to throw your smartphone in the trash? You're going to stop using the internet.
Half the things that they've identified as the villain are not really like the actual villains of the whole project. So they've got, it's like they've got this sort of limited hangout, to use that word. They've sort of identified some villains, if you will, but the villains that they've identified are not really in charge of any of it at the end of the day. I mean, this has to do with Club of Rome. This has to do with Klaus Schwab. This has to do with Davos. This has to do with Europe. So.
Yeah, the problem is this paradigm on which Wood and many others, excellent research of 20 years ago and back, or 10 years ago and back, has shifted massively. That system of sovereignty devouring imperial oligarchy you rightly and expertly exposed happens to be the very same systems being dismantled right now. I would think you would be overjoyed by this, right? Because I believe Patrick Wood is a constitutionalist, believes that the Constitution is right, good, and what we should protect. Why can't they see it? My second question would be, why would a battle-hardened sage, such as yourself, one who's always directed his readers to follow the evidence for themselves, why would you be telling your readers today to accept no other narrative? Remember that was the article on Substack.
Yeah.
Trump's war in Iran is about the IMEC. Accept no other narrative. Okay. So I have to believe that is true, and I can accept no other narrative. But infallibility is an attribute of God. It's not a quality any researcher who cares about his audience would ever approach, much less profess. But what if Patrick Wood actually got this one wrong? What if it turned out that that the Trump administration wasn't finishing and fulfilling the global technocracy and regionalism
Yeah.
How do you prevent your echo chamber you've created from becoming a standing wave of error and terror? If they accept no other narrative, how do you stop them when they actually obey your command in an archetypal folly of self-destruction? It's like Victor Frankenstein. We should have learned something from that about the dangers of overconfidence. And I say here, which Summer calls being gracious, I think, I assume that this is just a mistake, because the alternative that he actually knows better is difficult, sad for someone who's been a long time reader of his work to really entertain. Are you following someone who is warning you that Trump is building a technocratic empire using Venezuela and the war on Iran as key evidence? If you're familiar with the term technocracy from bloggers and fellow conspiracy theorists, you may have heard them describe technocracy as a kind of futuristic movement contingent upon the advancement of technology to a point where all the people of a nation or the world could be registered, assigned, limited, exacted, surveilled, and controlled by networking, databasing, and managing algorithms. Essentially, the sacrificing of the individual identity for the good of the administrated collective. Right? Technological communitarianism, you could say. That's not wrong. Patrick Wood is not wrong in the thing he has identified. Right? I want that to be clear. We're not saying he's wrong in the thing he has identified, the threat. But the explanatory scope for what we have before us today of his argument, the explanatory scope for what has already occurred is insufficient to the point of being almost useless at this point. Mm-hmm. Of course, technology does play a role, but there's a major problem with leading researchers, authors, and columnists who have been warning on the march toward technocracy for the last 40 plus years. Again, if our tagline, Armor of Truth, is truth in the age of technocracy, scientism, and pop atheism, right? In the age of technocracy, our point to you is that we've been telling you since 2018, maybe earlier, that America is already under the expert grip of a technocratic oligarchy and has been for 50 years or more.
Right.
Right? Technology doesn't make it a technocracy. Technocracy simply means rule by experts. Mm-hmm. Technocracy in the 20th century advanced sufficiently well before 9/11. In fact, we've been in that for at least 50 years, since 1976.
And by the way, the fact that it came out of Columbia University, that is a Fabian hub.
Stronghold.
Yeah, stronghold.
Yeah. Major policy papers and planning agencies have been active since the late 60s with the early environmentalist movements and sustainable development, the early versions of it. And the CFR's plan for controlled disintegration that came through in the 1980s. Technocracy in its most basic definition simply means rule by experts. But how do they rule? How do they rule? Not what do they use to rule, how do they rule, and how do we recognize them? Got something? You started to speak. I was just...
Oh, no.
Okay. How do we recognize them? No doubt that this 1930s version of technocracy, that the party that Wood identifies and many others, it was certainly dystopian. But it'd take a long time for that darkness to become evident to its onlookers. Like if you've seen the images of the technocracy movement of the 1930s, the ideology and the policy statements were bleak, but they were also grandiose, to say the least.
The Moloch machine.
The Moloch machine, for sure. But what really killed their sizzle back then was the overt symbolism and the monochromatic, collectivist-looking uniforms. It was their branding that really killed them back then. They were a little too on the nose. They looked a little too much like Nazis back then. And this was before the Nazi Party was identified as what we see it today. By the time Soviet communism came around, when it officially entered the public consciousness by the early 1960s, this technocracy movement had fizzled out.
Yeah, the other problem with this whole movement, too, is it always wants to gaslight you about the fact that, no, this has nothing to do with Marxism at all whatsoever, when clearly they are using that ideology as a wrecking ball to destroy all of our institutions and our educational system and our legal system. They are using Marxism. So the fact that they don't want to acknowledge that and gaslight the public about it constantly, just not discuss that at all, that's also a red flag.
Yeah.
It really is.
So the original movement sort of fizzled out and
well, it didn't really fizzle out.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
You know?
It didn't go away. It's kind of like the British Empire didn't go away.
Right.
It just transformed. So this movement also transformed, still committed to their brave new world.
And we've talked to you about the Commonwealth of Nations and how it was quietly converted into a sustainable development goals apparatus. So,
Right. What I want people to take from this, though, is this technocratic movement. What was it in the 30s? What was its origin? Wood speaks of the technocracy movement of the 30s that's being finished today as if it's its own thing that sort of comes up out of nothing, ex nihilo, just by itself, that these people just had these ideas but where did it come from?
Well, it's the Tower of Babel.
What was the philosophy behind it? These technocrats had been well trained in British liberal philosophy, British empiricism, British imperial economics, both antithetical to the American system that they infiltrated in the 1970s. My point is, just like when people say Israel controls Trump, that's the wrong question. The question is, who controls Israel?
Mm-hmm.
So, if the oligarchs, Silicon Valley, who are controlling Trump, who controls them? And if you're going to say nobody controls them, I beg to differ.
Yeah, that's just not true at all.
How do they do their business? They have to use a banking system, don't they? Now, that's how the billionaires, that's how they function. That's how they operate. What is the origin of the technocracy system that he's talking about? We trace it back from Limits to Growth, 1968. Where did that come from? That's a Fabian movement. City of London. The first interactions of what would become Agenda 21 in 1972. Project 1980s. Begun as policy ideas in 1973 at the Council on Foreign Relations, and then became official policy in the U.S. under Jimmy Carter in 1979 under Paul Volcker, chairman of the Federal Reserve at that time.
Yes, it's literally like the empire has tried to put all of the stuff that it's done, all of its dirty deeds on the back of America, so that we can carry that. That's
the question.
That bad, dirty name, like our brand has been smeared. But really, they're over there pulling the strings.
That's the question. That's it right there. Who is behind the technocracy movement that ultimately, came up, as Wood points out, the United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development.
City of London.
Which became official in 1992. It started in 68.
The Anglo-Dutch Empire.
Right. So what was the apex of the Anglo-Dutch Empire? What was the apex of technocracy in America? It was approximately the years 2020 through 2024. And what are the markers of technocracy? Wood's given us the name, and he's given us some ideas, but how do we recognize it? Well, number one, free trade. Free trade.
Mm-hmm.
What is free trade? Who is behind free trade being the model for the globalist banking cartel cult?
Isn't that 340 years old? Lloyd's of London, insurance, controlling pricing, access.
Free trade. a big part of the inauguration of the American technocracy in 1976. And it rose to its first notable high point in 1994 with NAFTA. And you had World Trade Organization and on. So North American Free Trade.
Fentanyl. The fentanyl.
Venezuela represented an international hub for drugs, narco-trafficking for sure.
Taking out hundreds of thousands of Americans.
But a very important part of how money is moved, how money is these dark illicit capital flows, right?
Dark money, illicit capital flows. Strongholds in Venezuela.
All right. So, and one of the things he talks about too, this the USMCA, a trade agreement between the United States, Canada, and Mexico that aimed to eliminate trade barriers and promote economic cooperation. Patrick Wood, I believe, would agree that that was part of the technocratic movement. Again, whose model is that? Whose model is that? That's not the American system.
That's the imperial model.
That is the imperial system's model, free trade.
Right.
Tear down the trade borders. Because when you do that, that makes everyone dependent on whoever's the strongest.
Right. So
the central authority.
They're literally just like the Trump administration has said, we're not doing managed decline anymore. We're not doing the international rules-based order anymore. Every single time they come out and make a speech, no matter who it is in the cabinet, they're all talking about that in unison. And they're all engaging in actions that show you that they're living up to that. And in the Chatham House, you're seeing all of this reaction. In the establishment media, they are attacking. Why? Because they don't want the American system to come truly online and for us to have our independence away from them.
What's the name of the article that you wrote? I need to search it up right quick.
Which one?
Patrick Wood.
It's right there in the notes, Substack notes. Okay. It's called The Technocracy Trap.
Yeah. Literally right here in front of me. Okay.
Yeah.
Technocracy trap. How, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, how outdated analysis is fueling the very system it claims to expose. When truth is obscured, the path to real freedom is missed, and that is the point. So Wood says, I have given you the name. Now you can name the system. Now you can stand up to it. How does knowing that there is a system that is going to use surveillance to control me and digital money to control me, how does that help me stand up to it?
And the scary part is all the people that believe this, they will say, I'm not going to vote for Trump because, Trump's evil, so why should I vote for him? And then we just hand the keys over to the empire.
The truth of the matter is, when Wood says this, you just said this, reminded me.
It's really like, it's quite a genius campaign that they've got going here from various alternative media voices,
Americans now have a narrow window in which to push back.
Right.
How?
Yeah.
It's a narrow window. I don't have time to run for president myself. What do I do to push back? What? Do I reject technology?
You reject Trump. You reject Trump. That's what you do, according to what they're asking you to do.
I believe.
You reject Trump, and therefore you sign over the U.S. Constitution to the globalists once and for all.
So one of Wood's main arguments that Summer points out here in the article that let's see.
This stuff is so twisted, man. It is so twisted.
Is this article linked here? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, here it is. There you go. I'll just put it so we can pull his article up so we can, so that we can represent it here. Why I wrote and just released this book, The New Economics of Technocracy. You will own nothing. It's been a long 50 years. Oh, this is not the one, though. Sorry, I know I can find it right quick. It's the, why Trump is so desperate to secure the Strait of Hormuz. This is it right here. This is the one we were talking about. The IMEC. Trump's war with Iran is about global trade, period. Agreed. But in what way? In what way is it about global trade? And he says, do not fall for any other narrative. And that's what I was criticizing a bit earlier. What if your analysis was wrong? I would remind all of you here, do not, when we tell you something here, we expect you to follow up and do your due diligence. I'm not Tucker Carlson. Like he's talking about the book of Esther in his show a few weeks ago, as if it doesn't belong in the Bible, because of the Jews and all that. And he says that because he knows that most of his audience is never going to follow up to find out whether that's true or not. We do not expect that of you here. We invite you to come here with us, and you can listen to what we have to say, and you need to go verify it for yourself. And we will give you as much help as we can to go behind us and check behind us and see whether what we say is true or not. Be a good Berean. Mm-hmm. All right, so this IMEC is the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. Wood says that this is why Trump is doing military strikes, doing a military operation on Iran and in the Strait of Hormuz. All right. One of the largest, most ambitious infrastructure projects in modern history. Trump called it one of the greatest trade routes in all of history. IMEC is not just a trade route. It is a control corridor, a fully integrated system of rails, roads, shipping lanes, ports, fiber, and we can't read the rest of it because we're not subscribed there any longer. Okay. There's a problem of false totalization here. Wood has collapsed a multi-layered geopolitical reality into a single variable, right? It's this, the IMEC. Therefore, the IMEC, therefore war with Iran, therefore Gaza reconstruction, therefore Jared Kushner, therefore technocracy. Okay. This is an analytical error, and it's a classic one. You take one real factor, the IMEC, the existence of technocracy, and you inflate it to be the only factor. Yes, the IMEC is real. Yes, it has real strategic implications, but claiming, period, don't fall for any other narrative, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
No researcher or author should ever tell you to not accept any other narrative. Don't even think about. This is the only answer. We could be wrong in our analysis, my friends. Let's just get that right out there and up front. We could be wrong. We are very careful and diligent to try to not be wrong, but we have been wrong before. This language signals narrative control, not real investigation. And the IMEC is real, this India, Middle East, Europe corridor. So what is it? A multimodal trade plus energy plus data corridor here's the map for you. Right? It comes from Greece through the Middle East to India. And let's see, where's Iran? So the piece that needs to be completed here is from Jebel Ali in the United Arab Emirates. It doesn't go through Iran, but the Belt and Road Initiative does. Multimode plus energy plus data corridor designed as an alternative to the Suez Canal, designed as an alternative to the Belt and Road Initiative, which generally would go this direction. Okay. Now, this part of what Patrick Wood is telling you broadly, in a general sense, is accurate. But where does he go off track? He treats the IMEC as the primary causal engine behind war with Iran, regime change, the restructuring, the rebuilding of Gaza. And he believes this is the primary objective of the U.S. military, is to protect this, to help finish this, and this will be the backbone of technocracy, at least in this part of the world, is the claim. That is not how statecraft works. He ignores many competing strategic frameworks. right? For example, one of the things he ignores are the two competing systems, Summer, that we talk about here quite a lot, right? That is the American system, which is sovereign development, and global financial technocratic management systems. I've never read Patrick Wood one time mention the American system of political economy or the American system of economics, or refer to how the principles that Alexander Hamilton put forward that the Trump administration is
utilizing
is invoking
engaging
as
in
the system they want us to return to be economically independent, to be reindustrialized.
Tariffs is part of that.
And tariffs.
And by the way, even though recently, like supposedly, or not supposedly, but the Trump administration has to do a reimbursement of some of those tariffs, that doesn't matter. Like there's another lever that he's going to pull that's going to make most of those people not demand their money back.
He was using
all that to say.
He was using emergency powers,
right?
But
if you look at it in the news, they're going to be like, "Oh, this is catastrophic," and they catastrophize it and make it seem like it's something that wasn't anticipated. But anyway, that's just one point of many. The American system uses tariffs.
And why? Why tariffs? Because tariffs protect the working class. They protect the middle class. They protect the citizens. Tariffs are what protect your industry at home. Because the administration's goal is to reindustrialize our nation, which is the opposite of what you would expect if you were building the technocracy.
Right.
All right. What Patrick Wood does is he collapses everything into technocracy is building a control grid. Technocracy is building a control grid to control you and everything that you do. That flattens the argument. There is more to it than this, for sure. I think that's probably self-evident. But it ignores real-world competing drivers like energy security. What's going to happen after Ukraine and Russia stop fighting? What about our energy dependence or independence? Does anything we're doing in the Middle East have to do with that? Does anything that Trump is doing in Iran right now have to do with the global banking system? Is regional deterrence a thing that the United States should engage in at all? Should we care about Iran's proxy network? What about the restructuring of alliances, the breaking down of NATO? Wouldn't you think that if this administration was engaged in building the technocracy, they would be trying to strengthen that? And of course, there's the industrial logistics, reshoring our industries. That you can't reduce all of those things down to the IMEC alone. And remember, the title of the article is Trump's War with Iran is about global trade, period. Particularly, it is about the IMEC. That's the argument here. He's saying here in this article that Trump is neutralizing Iran because that is the prerequisite for this India, Middle East, Europe corridor. But that is a logical leap.
Yeah.
But of course, he has seeded it all with all of the fear about technology and Peter Thiel and the Silicon Tech Bros, and so it's inevitable. Again, it's just like the other day when we were talking. It's the black pill.
Yeah, the diagnosis of who the villain is just wrong. There's no evidence behind that. You're giving too much power to Peter Thiel. He's misdiagnosed that whole thing. Plus, he's not dealing with the fact that we're going into the American system of political economy, a whole new economic system that's coming online. Plus, he's not dealing with the fact that Trump, he did an executive action where they're stopping Wall Street from competing with mainstream home buyers. So we have all the details of that. on our Substack in the notes, if you care to check it out. I did pull a bunch of different facts for people. If you want to see, like, what is the administration actually doing that's empowering the middle class? It's not you'll own nothing and be happy. No, this administration is taking huge, drastic moves to make sure that Americans can start to afford to buy homes again, including younger people as well. So, of course, just ignoring that flat out because that doesn't fit his narrative.
It's a matter of cause and effect. He's reversing the cause and effect, saying that the Iran conflict is all about the IMEC. It's all about technocracy. The truth is the Iran conflict has existed for 50 years. And again, why? Why does it exist? Who has caused this destabilization in that region?
MI6.
In that region for 50 years. And it was, of course, America too. Our CIA under different administrations was involved with this too. That was the nation building. That's George Bush and Obama and Clinton. That's that system.
Yeah, we were complicit for a while.
If you want to say that George Bush and Obama and Clinton
he was always talking about the New World Order.
If you want to say that they were trying to establish this, I'm with you.
Yeah, of course.
That's not the case anymore.
But not now. It's not happening now.
Also, there's a conflation here, the idea of technocracy, conflating it with all infrastructure, all the things he mentioned. Where the analysis becomes dated and misleading is where he defines technocracy as infrastructure plus data plus control, the three-legged stool, right? That is what causes a technocratic dictatorship. It is inevitable. That's a form of fatalism or determinism, right? By that logic, railroads equal technocracy. Fiber optics equal technocracy. Shipping ports equal technocracy. Folks, that's not analysis. That's collapsing categories.
Yeah.
What he's calling a conversion is logically collapsing categories.
This is called like story form propagandizing.
More also Kushner, we hear a lot about that. And
in the sense that let's assume for a moment that they are aware of the fact that this is a deception to get people to not come out and vote. Then this is propaganda. It's a false narrative.
Well, we just like to show the logical pathway, why we're saying this, and there's a logical reason behind it. Another one is the outdated analytical model, which is really our primary beef here.
Yeah.
Patrick Wood's framework comes from a 1970s to 1980s technocracy critique. That's when he began. That was probably when he was doing the most work on the issue or on the topic. That's it, or his initial work, let's say that. And the Trilateral Commission was most certainly a big part of that. And we've pointed out the Trilateral Commission was responsible for the managed decline of the U.S. economy. But his model is assuming that the centralized elite are coordinated. Right now, they're coordinated. And not they haven't been harmed. They haven't been broken apart. They are unified, coordinated, building the technocracy right now.
Beep.
In a linear execution of their globalist plans, haven't been interrupted at all. In fact, now they've been empowered by Donald Trump. All right, but what's the reality? These systems, these groups, this centralized elite has been fragmented. If that's not the case, then someone show me how.
They're going bankrupt right now. They're going bankrupt.
They're competing, right? And the ones that are
going bankrupt.
What was the first thing that happened after the Trump administration went to Davos and laid down the hammer? We're not doing it anymore. We're not participating in managed decline. We're decoupling from the liberal and national order. We're going to go do our own thing.
Withdrawing from organizations, from the WHO.
What was the first thing? What was the first thing that the British did, that Mark Carney did? They went immediately to China because they saw the writing on the wall. They were on the menu now, they saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, there are There is no singular orchestration going on. Not in the way he's asserting.
And when Trump does deals, he goes outside the purview of City of London, outside the purview of NATO. He goes and meets with world leaders without these meddling, Davos types being involved. They're not in control. They're not sharing intelligence anymore.
The first thing that Trump did was he broke the intelligence sharing with the Five Eyes.
Right.
So this is especially, don't fall for any other narrative. This is a problem. This is not good for your readers, for your viewers. It creates a sense of false clarity. Everything becomes, well, it's all one plan. Well, it makes it easier, right? Easier. You might feel better because, well, I've identified it all. I understand it all. It's that. So I don't have to think anymore. Question is, what are we going to do about it? It's all one plan. It blinds people to any other possibility. Mm-hmm. A researcher should never do that. If everything equals IMEC, if everything equals technocracy in this sense, what about the actual military doctrine? What about the economic restructuring that's taking place right now? What about genuine and real world geopolitical shifts? And Summer, you'll appreciate this. I'm more hesitant to go this route, but just like with Tucker Carlson, I am, and you were right about him all along. Only two possibilities with Tucker Carlson right now. He's possessed or having a mental breakdown, or he's an agent. Mm-hmm. Because this kind of oversimplification, you hear the same oversimplification coming from Tucker Carlson today. It's Israel, it's the Jews. Okay, over here it's technocracy. Don't accept any other narrative. This is fatalism. It leads to confusion. It leads to disengagement, which is what you've said very well many times. This will cause people to disengage.
Yeah.
Think about
the result. Like, let's assume that we're right, that this really is some sort of nefarious action that's happening on a large swath of the population on the internet. What are you going to do if you really take on board what these people are saying? A lot of Christians will say, well, my vote, I need to vote for the least of the evil, right? So I want to make sure my vote goes toward the least, the one that has the most good. Well, if you're telling me that both are evil, then as a Christian, I'm going to be like, well, I better not vote, because then that would be me consenting to evil.
That's right. That's why you should never make the argument that we're selecting between the lesser of two evils. Is it possible that there is a right choice?
Well, we're all fallen.
Is it possible that there's a right choice for a Christian to make today?
Yes.
Could you evaluate the options and make a right choice?
But if you're convinced,
or are they all evil and irredeemable?
Well, if you're listening to what they have to say, the fruit of that wisdom is that it's all evil, and Donald Trump is taking you into the dystopia. So therefore, why would you go out and vote in the midterms? And what does that do? That gives the globalists more votes. We're beyond Democrat, Republican. If you vote for Democrat, you're voting for globalists. That's how it works right now. So don't go in there and vote for Trump because, Trump's evil too. Don't bother. So what does that make you do? You hand the keys over to the castle for the globalists. You see how that works?
Right. The assumption in this writing, in this argument.
And there's so many of these articles out there that sound just like this.
Yeah. The assumption in this argument is that managed global integration is unbroken. It's unchallenged and unbroken. But what would be the alternative to managed global integration? That would be sovereign national development. Mm-hmm. So then we have Then we have to ask ourselves, what is the Trump administration? And forget about Donald Trump. He is the polarizing character. I get it.
Well, and that's part of the PSYOP too.
Right. Well, he does a lot of things.
I know he does do things.
But still, he is the symbol that they will use to get you to disengage. But what is the political and economic philosophy?
We've shared that with you.
Of the Trump administration.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it ever brought up in his articles? Does he ever quote from the national security strategy authentically? He's wrong to say this is the whole story. The moment somebody tells you don't fall for any other narrative, that's your signal, that's your red flag. You're not being invited to understand reality. You're being told which lens to accept. And that would be the problem. And this comes back once again to Micah 7:8. It doesn't seem like it at first, right? Do not gloat over me, my enemy. Though I have fallen, I will arise. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light. All right. Give me a few minutes here and just follow with me. I want to kind of talk through this with you, and I want to share this with our viewers. And anyone, I would pray that Patrick Wood or anyone from the New American could come across it. I know it's a long show, but that's what we do. We do long shows. If anyone out there wants to make clips of our shows for us, contact us at hello@armoroftruth.net, because we spend our time trying to understand what's going on. But, okay. What we're trying to tell you here, once again, you have reason to be optimistic. This is what Micah 7:8 is really about. It's about optimism. Optimism is faithful stewardship. What you're getting from Wood and many others is determinism. You're getting pessimism. There is a growing voice, and we've just given you one of them, among people on our side of the fence who are, ostensibly anyway, conservatives, insisting that nothing has changed, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing's changed. That same technocratic movement from the 30s is now coming to fruition. They tell us that this administration is just more of the same. It's the same globalist machine, the same technocratic system. It's just wearing a different mask today. It's the Donald Trump mask. And because of that, their conclusion is there's no reason for optimism. There's no reason to trust the administration, right? There's only reason for suspicion, pessimism. What you're being trained to do here is to just wait for the next betrayal. Look for the danger. I understand where that instinct comes from. I have lived by that for much of my life. Right? I understand that. I understand where, think about it. Back in 2015, when it was earlier than that, but 2012, that's when it was. Around 2012, when YouTube was really getting big, when conspiracy culture was. So are you? It was. I mean, I understand where that instinct comes from. Especially when you don't understand everything that's going on and it's confusing, and you're happy for someone to tell you, hey, here's what's happening. It's all this. This is this one thing and nothing else. And well, that sucks, but that's easier for me to understand. And for many years, this kind of critique was not only justified, and it was necessary, right? It was good to expose the Trilateral Commission. Good to expose that technocracy is a thing that exists. But now, as we sit here today, that framework is insufficient. Patrick Wood and apparently many at the New American as well are still fighting the last war. They're not fighting the war that's before us today. And if we refuse to update our understanding in light of new evidence, we're not being discerning, being careless. So this is where I wanted to walk through with you. Let's step back and think clearly through it, okay? Yeah, I'm okay. There are some thinkers and some scholars that I've shared these books already. These are just a couple. Thomas G. West, The Political Theory of the American Founding, will give you a lot of background. You can read some of the work of Michael Anton. What you got there?
I think
well, this didn't really apply to this.
No, but it does though, because even people within Liberty Sentinel want to say that Buckley, for example.
Well, Alex Newman pointed out that William Buckley, who was the leader of the conservative movement for many years,
right,
was actually a Pied Piper for the establishment.
Right.
He became an internationalist, I guess. He just became
it was like a so in other words, the dissent was controlled, it was contained, and so it
was an acceptable opposition.
It was an acceptable opposition, and I'm sorry, but that's how it's coming across right now. Like that you're supposed to be conservative, but it looks like everything that you're doing right now is dividing the country. Like you're not examining the evidence and the changes that have happened. You're not even acknowledging them. So are you a Pied Piper? You know, are some of these people Pied Pipers? I mean, time will tell. But this is serious, you know?
Well, how can you tell whether someone, a researcher, a big voice in the movement, how can you tell whether or not they're giving you a fruitful take, a fruitful analysis? It's the same pattern we always use, right? It's wisdom is judged by its fruit. What's the fruit of this wisdom? When you read Patrick Wood's take on this, how does it make you feel when you come out of it? Well, now you know the name of it, and you know how all this stuff works, and we have a narrow window to stand up to it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that feels confusing. What do I do? It's a narrow window. We're running out of time. I come away anxious.
Mm-hmm. It's despair.
I know that something needs to be done, but I don't know what I can do.
Demoralization, destabilization. It is despair. It is, nihilism. It is
fear.
It's fear. There's no hope. You lose your joy. You won't want to have children if you're younger. You know, why would I want to bring kids into this?
And all of this serves the very globalist ideology that Wood and many others are claiming to be resisting.
Yeah, they're serving it.
There is no real solution there. Now let me talk to you a minute about some of these people. I'm going to talk to you about two today. I'll talk to you. I already mentioned Thomas G. West. These are people who come. They are today's representation of a long intellectual tradition of the American system of economics. What you will find is, I'm not sure about Patrick Wood himself, but I know that Courtney Turner uses this term. I know that Ian Davis and many others use this term, dark enlightenment. And mostly they associate it...
Yeah, this is really telling.
Yeah, mostly they associate it with Silicon Valley, right? With big tech, with those tech bros, the dark enlightenment. And that's fine. I think you can say that Peter Thiel looks like a dark enlightenment for sure. But Trump, many people are saying that Michael Anton, Charles Kessler, because Michael Anton was one of the key figures that behind the national security strategy, Trump's national security strategy. They're saying that his rhetoric is dangerous. It's dark enlightenment. They want to burn down the Constitution and build up this new. Well, let me talk to you for a second about Charles Kessler and Michael Anton. Just these two guys for a minute. These are men deeply rooted in the intellectual tradition of the founding. And when I talk about Kessler and Anton here, I want you to understand that I am talking about the Trump administration's political philosophy. What are they working for? Because Anton is one of the chief advisors, Jameson Greer, a chief advisor, and Scott Bessant, Peter Navarro. Now, they may not have always been in this tradition, but today they certainly are. And we've got a video too, the video titled Globalism is Over, where we show you several videos of the administration speaking this language.
Yeah, it's an article on Substack.
Yeah, it's an article with videos in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so these guys, Michael Anton and Charles Kessler, for example, they've spent their lives diagnosing the real crisis in America. Kessler tells us that we're living under what he calls the crisis of the two constitutions. There is the idea of the Founders' Constitution rooted in self-government, natural law, and moral order. And there's the Progressive Constitution, the leftists, the idea of the Living Constitution that came from, I think it was Woodrow Wilson. The idea that the Constitution is to be reinterpreted as our morality changes or whatever. That the Progressive Constitution is rooted in administrative control, expert rule, centralized power. You see what we're talking about here. There are two ideas of the Constitution. There are what the founders meant, and there is what the internationalists or the globalists or the actual technocrats. It's what they believe it is. All right, because the progressive idea of the living Constitution is really about centralized power. Kessler makes a very good point in one of his lectures. He says, our problem is not that the American system has failed beyond repair. The problem is it has been overlaid, distorted, and forgotten. In his book, The Crisis of the Two Constitutions, he quotes Barack Obama, who says, implicit in the Constitution was the rejection of absolute truth. Okay. What I'm trying to lay out here for you, there are two competing systems battling it out today on the world stage. There is this, in America, the effects are on the world stage. One of them is this other one, progressive living constitution, technocratic, and there is the American system. Kessler says something that many refuse to say today. Charles Kessler says that he is optimistic. Why? Why would anyone be optimistic today? Kessler says because the constitutional structure still has integrity. He still has faith in the American people and the principles of our founders alive still in our Constitution. Because the American people are not as stupid, ignorant, and far gone as many people think. Now, Michael Anton takes this idea even further. He identifies the trajectory that we're on. He says it is, in his book, The Stakes, he points this out quite a bit. This is how you understand the administration, my friends. You don't get to understand the administration by listening to hot takes from people's blogs, right? Because they're not quoting the national security strategy. They're not talking to you about the political philosophy of those who are advising Trump. They talk about Trump and what he's doing and what he wants. Michael Anton points out that what we've seen over many decades is a slow, steady consolidation of power into what he calls administrative state control, as far as the eye could see. And he warns about the continued growth of the radical left. Right, that we have to be engaged, that we have to fight for conservatism or we lose the nation. Says that the real threat is the administrative state. What does Anton say about the emergence of Donald Trump? Anton says that Donald Trump isn't continuing the previous system, but that he has interrupted it. That, in fact, he is dismantling it. These are scholars, political theorists speaking here.
And by the way, like we've said so many times, the Chatham House, they acknowledge it. If you want to read how they acknowledge it, come on over to the Substack notes section. You can see lots of articles in there.
Oh, yeah, you've got you need to go to, Summer has really, I really say this all the time because it's true. You need to, we would love for you to come check out what's going on here.
Yeah, just come dig around and see what's over there. But, we've tried to give you an exhaustive.
We would love. going on
just come
here?
dig
There I
around
am
and see
again.
what's over there.
Gosh.
Here we go.
We've tried to give you a lot of these
an
resources that we
talk about, and then we've tried to show you a lot of them, and then we try to constantly add to that in the Substack notes and also in the articles, so that you can go look at it yourselves.
Yeah. I wonder if I can get back to the articles without getting to our. Gosh. Nope, I can't. Gosh, I hate that. Okay. Anyway. All right, so Anton points to 3 areas where the old order, and by the old order, he means the American system was being broken down, and that was through immigration, through free trade, and through foreign policy, particularly the liberal international order. Now think about that. Those are not side issues. Those are the pillars of the globalist framework. Take foreign policy. Anton says plainly, just like Marco Rubio said, right, in Munich back in February. Anton says, we made a mistake. Right? Iraq and Afghanistan, the global war on terror, this policy of nation building and basically imperialism continued, failed to produce what they promised it would. Again, as I'm speaking to you, understand this is the philosophy of Trump's national security strategy and their domestic policy. This is not a defense of empire. This is a repudiation of it. So when people say today, this is just the same imperial system, or Trump is just finishing the technocracy, you have to ask, where is the evidence? Now, some people will give you a big, like a shotgun, and throw lots of facts at you. This is what you find in Wood's article, lots of facts, but there's no real connection to this moment. Because the intellectual foundation for that system has already been rejected. The intellectual foundation for globalism and technocracy is being rejected by the people that are in power in the United States right now.
That's right.
So why? Why do I say that? Take trade, for example. Michael Anton. Again, I'm not giving you my opinion here. I want to talk to you from scholars, from these people who are far smarter, but come from this intellectual tradition of the American system. Anton went back, not to talking points. Anton goes back to first principles. He said when he had to adjust his thinking, he said he went back and read Adam Smith again. He read these political theorists who promoted free trade. Now, Adam Smith is a main figure in the British imperial system of free trade. Well, Anton goes back and reads all of these economists, and he realized something, which is fascinating when I read it.
Yeah.
He said free trade is a pragmatic tool. It is not a moral system. It's, in fact, free trade is, as we've written, is unbiblical.
It's evil.
It's immoral.
It's evil.
And because it's a tool, tools serve a purpose. So what was the purpose of free trade? He says, for the good of the nation. I'm sorry, what was the purpose of rejecting free trade? Why is he writing it? Why is Kessler writing it? Why is West writing it? Many, many others. Why are those advising Trump, advising him to reject free trade? Because rejecting free trade and tariffs, putting on tariffs, leads to reindustrialization. It leads to economic sovereignty in the United States. And the administration is also promoting economic sovereignty for other nations.
It builds the middle class.
This is what's happening in Venezuela. He didn't go in there and change the regime. He got rid of a criminal, and he didn't try to change their system. The national security strategy says we will respect other people's systems as long as they're not, harming us.
Right, and he wants the Venezuelan people to partake in the oil.
And they are.
And that wasn't happening. They were being deprived of the oil. It was being siphoned off before.
He caused the Venezuelan regime to renationalize their oil, which is the opposite of what the imperial system has always done.
Yes.
They would always fight against anyone who was nationalizing.
There's so many tells, they're just one after the other. And plus of the hostility toward the Trump administration from the establishment media, there's your other, clue.
The goal in Iran.
They hate him.
Right. Well, it's because they serve the globalists.
Yeah, it's like, again, we've talked about it before. We're going through a divorce with Europe.
Yeah.
We are. I mean, it's breaking down with NATO. There's every indicator. We're not in alignment.
Yeah. And as you already said, protecting the American worker, protecting the worker inside the nation, the thing that Trump did for Venezuelan people, and the thing that he's making possible for the people who live in Iran today, the people who say we should leave Iran alone and do nothing, I don't know how they can make that as a moral argument. That we shouldn't intervene at all when that regime is willing to kill 40,000 of its own people.
They defend the IRGC because that's part of the proxy system of City of London. They want to protect that asset.
And that's why the administration is attacking the IRGC. Because the real war is not with Iran or Venezuela or anyone else. The real war is with the imperial system. The real war is on the banking cartel cult. The real war is on that City of London, Square Mile City.
Yeah.
All right. That is not globalism, my friends. That is the rejection, repudiation. It's the rebuke and correction of globalism. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Anton says something that cuts directly against what many in our own camp are saying. Anton says conservatism became about policy. Means became ends. And a lot of people on our side recognize that, right? That was the Bush administration. That was the nation-building exercise. That's the means. Just the ends justify the means. They're very Machiavellian. In other words, free trade became dogma. Intervention became untouchable. Intervention became the policy, right? We're supposed to intervene in these places. And because Trump went to another nation and did this thing, they automatically said, well, he's doing what Bush did. And anyone who questioned that under Bush was cast out. Same thing today, in the opposite direction. Anyone at this moment who isn't questioning what Trump's doing in Iran, a great many of the people on our side of the fence will consider you illegitimate. It's happened to us. It's happening to us as right now. So what was Anton's response to this? He says, quote, I didn't leave the tradition. I questioned its misapplication. I didn't stop being a conservative. I tried to correct the problem. And that's exactly what we're doing now. So let's go a little bit deeper. It's not just about politics. This is about how Christians think in times of crisis. And this is where Micah chapter 7, verse 8 comes into play. It's very important for our day. Rejoice not over me, my enemy. When I fall, I shall rise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord will be a light to me. This is not naive optimism. Summer and I are not naive triumphalists. We're not naively supporting Trump because we think he's so awesome. We support what the administration's doing because they're dismantling globalism. They're dismantling that very system of technocratic control. We're not denying reality. Micah here. This is not denial of reality, right? We are in a dark period, for sure. The context here of this verse, Micah is speaking in the middle of, in his day, there was national corruption among the people. There was failed leadership, moral collapse, and judgment. They were under judgment, though I sit in darkness. They were under God's judgment at the time. Israel had sinned. America has sinned. And I'll say it again. I'm not comparing America to Old Testament Israel. America has is not mentioned in Scripture. We apply concepts. We don't try to put America into Scripture. All right. The point is, Israel had sinned. This is an example, an application for us. And judgment was real on them. Darkness was real on them, the same as it is for us today. But the prophet says, when I fall, I shall rise. Not because Israel is strong, but because God is faithful. Verse 9, right after this, is very important. You have to read all of this in context. Verse 9 says, I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I have sinned. I will recognize this judgment and understand that it has a purpose. This is not pride. This is repentance. It's what our nation needs right now. But it's also confidence. It's faith. It's trust in the Lord. He will bring me out into the light. And this is the biblical pattern. Sin. And then comes discipline. And then comes restoration. And then a fall will likely come again. And then darkness. And then light. Where are we in the process? If we're in darkness, if we're under judgment, what would come next if we are faithful stewards? The light. So here's the connection you can't miss with everything that we're saying to you here tonight. Optimism in the biblical sense is not wishful thinking. Optimism is faithful stewardship in the midst of judgment. It's telling the truth. It's not, Summer, how does it go? Being right wrongly.
Telling the truth falsely and being right wrongly.
That is one of the main tactics of communist and Marxist movements. Mm-hmm. They'll give you some truth mixed with a lot of error.
Casuistry and sophistry. We were going to talk to you guys again about
we
that.
Will. We can
we'll
come back.
Into it.
We could actually do that. We could actually do that tomorrow if we wanted to. We could just deal with that. Help people understand that, because that's what we're seeing in a lot of writing and podcasting from people on our side.
Can I just bring up the thing that's happened with the Southern Poverty Law Center?
Yeah, let's do that.
That thing is that reminds me a lot of what we're talking about right now, because what it reveals.
I know 2 hours and 10 minutes, but. Definitely, let's not miss this.
Well, no, I'm just saying that what it reveals is, that basically they were funding, they got caught red-handed funding the thing that they were supposedly fighting against. You know what I mean? So they were indicted for secretly funding white supremacist groups, right? The Southern Poverty Law Center was indicted on 11 counts, with investigators alleging the liberal nonprofit used fictitious bank accounts to funnel $3 million or more in donor money to leaders of the KKK, National Socialist Movement, and American Nazi Party between 2014 and 2023. And so, that's really exploding on the internet, but it just shows you the extent to which they will go. This is just one organization. I mean, it's a big one. It's a significant one, but it shows you the extent to which the enemy will go to feign like a problem, like they create the problem reaction solution.
Yeah.
Right?
The whole argument that Trump is a racist came up out of what happened in Charlottesville.
Right.
And this is showing you that what happened in Charlottesville was an operation for exactly that purpose, to get Trump into a position where they could make him look like a racist. Well, there's good people on both sides. But that's not what he said. And that's all.
Yeah.
And you never see the retraction.
They clipped it. They didn't play the full clip. And that's what they did with Charlie Kirk as well. Let's be real. They pulled things out of context when he would speak as well, and demonized him. Yeah. But this is just, goes to show that they do these kinds of things. Like, they have no qualms by any means necessary. For the revolution, they will lie, steal, cheat, and kill.
Yeah. I wanted to do this too, because in your article here, you've got this section, the actual war against God. And in the New American, Alex Newman has an article in the new issue called "The Conspiracy Against God." The global conspiracy is a satanic war against God. No doubt. It ranges from Babel and the Illuminati to Marxism and government schools. The goal is global tyranny via destruction of nations and family. Faithful resistance is essential. That sounds familiar.
Faith is resistance.
Yeah. At the heart of the effort to enslave humanity is and always has been a war against God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, and all that he has ordained. According to the prophet Isaiah, the rebellion began with Lucifer, filled with pride, sought to usurp the Almighty's throne. Scripture says a third of the angels followed. Cast down to earth is Satan, this once glorious being, tempted Adam and Eve to question God's word and to defy his simple decree, and the rest is history. I would say that it's just a bit more than that. Just a bit more than that, because what Adam and Eve were actually tempted to do was what is the knowledge of good and evil? Mm-hmm. The knowledge of good and evil is the ability to discern what is good and evil. The only way that you can do this rightly is through God. The only reason anyone can decide what is good from evil is Ecclesiastes 3:11. Eternity was set on their hearts. Romans 2 says the same thing. Romans 1 says, but we suppress that truth. How do we suppress it? You see what Adam and Eve did in the Garden of Eden. Satan knew exactly how to tempt them by telling them that they don't have to depend on God for the knowledge of good and evil. They can determine it for themselves, which means I can do more of what I want to do because it feels right.
Hey, and did God really say?
Yes, exactly. So yes, Adam and Eve, probably more than questioning God's word, they wanted to determine for themselves what is good and evil. It is true. What did God really say? That is questioning God's word, but it's actually Satan that's questioning God's word. What Adam and Eve desired was knowledge of good and evil. To make that, I guess, a little more clear, what that term, that Hebrew term not for knowledge of good and evil, was a term that was used to describe kings when they made judgments. Did they make these judgments based on God's commands or based on their own instincts? So knowledge of good and evil. That's important. That's very important, because today what we're dealing with when we're talking about some of these positions that we're hearing is, how are these people coming to their determinations on what is good and evil? I can tell you why we have come to our position that it's good, right, moral, just, and biblically supported to support the Trump administration. A couple reasons. The two competing systems. The globalist system, which is alive inside our country and our own politicians. A top-down empowerment of a ruling class. People who want to dispense rights. They want the knowledge of good and evil. That's what caused the Tower of Babel, right? That's what was in the hearts of the Babylonites. They wanted to have their own one world system where they determined what was good and evil for themselves, apart from God. They wanted to usurp God in that sense. Versus a bottom-up empowerment of the people, empowerment of the individual, life, liberty, virtue, self-governance, and self-determination. That's the American system. That's what the administration is fighting to restore.
And that not only benefits Americans, but it benefits everyone around the world.
Exactly.
Because it reestablishes
that's
nation
an important
states.
Point. It's an important point, because what the Board of Peace is designed to do is to support the sovereignty of nations.
Exactly.
That's not technocracy. I know Tony Blair is a technocrat. I understand that. He's on the Board of Peace. I get that. I understand that. But that's not the whole argument. It doesn't follow that the Board of Peace is technocratic because Tony Blair is a technocrat. Mm-hmm. Trump invited him to be a part of that. Okay.
That's probably good. Don't you think?
Huh?
Sorry.
I was trying to get through that.
Okay, no worries.
Finish thing, but this actual war against God, casuistry, sophistry, integralism, the social gospel, the Great Reset. Mm-hmm. What is that Great Reset that we're talking about? It's this. And you listen to this and you tell me, is this what Trump is doing? Let's get to Klaus. We jump forward to Klaus.
25 years ago, countries and people came together to shape the post-war global order, which brought us decades of peace, increased global...
So he's telling you right there what their system is. Their system is the global order, the liberal international order, the rules-based international order, the system that this administration is currently dismantling in many ways, reindustrializing America for one of them.
Global cooperation and prosperity to hundreds of millions of people around the world. The COVID-19 crisis has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century. It has laid bare the fundamental lack of social cohesion, fairness, inclusion, and equality. Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system for the need for the post-corona era. We have a choice to remain passive, which would lead to the amplification of many of the trends we see today. Polarization, nationalism, racism, and ultimately increased social unrest.
So framing nationalism as the enemy. The Trump administration is saying that nationalism is American.
Mm-hmm.
Conflicts. But we have another choice. We can build a new social contract, particularly integrating the next generation. We can change our behavior to be in harmony with nature again. And we can
change our behavior. Right. These are the words of a technocrat. As far as Patrick Wood identifies this as technocracy, I am totally with him.
Make sure that the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution are best utilized to provide us with better lives. In short, we need a great reset.
There you go. We need a great reset. Okay. For the good of our lives, to make, for the good of the nation. Every time that these globalists try to do something for the good of the nation, it always ends up in tyranny. But here's what Trump tweeted: world's most powerful reset. Oh, so Trump is doing what Schwab was doing. It's the same thing. They're all right. Is that true, though? Is Trump allowed to use this word? Does it mean the same thing? What is the political philosophy behind what this administration is doing?
Trump's trumping their reset.
That is a fact.
That's a Trump move, man.
That's what's happening.
He's trumping their reset. He's saying this is the reset.
That's what he does.
Because remember, he went into, he's got Melania, who's now involved in the United Nations. That's the first time a first lady has ever done that. He's doing that because he wants a seat at the table.
Right, and
he's not just like, okay, we're just gonna withdraw from the WHO and we're gonna withdraw from the United Nations. Yeah. That would have been great, had we had maybe a different circumstance. But it makes more sense with all this investment and this money that we put into United Nations.
That's a good point.
That we would go in and do something with it, get rid of all the cockroaches.
That's a good point, right? Because one of the criticisms toward us and our statement that globalism is over was that, no, the United Nations still exists. And we're still putting funds into it. And we still have representatives going there to it. Mm-hmm. But the question is this: What is being done?
Yeah, what are they saying?
What is actually being done now? What I always agree too. I have always agreed too.
The WHO is broke.
Well, the WHO, that's a different thing. Trump has withdrawn us from 66 international organizations and treaties that had to do with globalism.
USAID.
Why did he remain connected to the United Nations? To use that infrastructure that they have around the world to establish the Board of Peace, which is about promoting sovereignty.
Right.
Which is about people. The argument goes like this. Why is Trump not establishing a global technocracy? I'll put it down in a few points here. The best way to handle it is not with rhetorical heat, which Patrick Wood gave us, right? He gave you a very interesting, very, very detailed presentation of a lot of facts, a lot of rhetorical heat. But what's needed right now is conceptual precision, right? A genuinely global technocratic administration would be expected to do several things. To elevate transnational institutions. What has Trump done? He has withdrawn us from 66 of them. Took us out of the climate, out of the Paris Climate Accords. Took us out of UNESCO. The United Nations Population Fund, which was a depopulation fund. All right. So if he was technocratic, he wouldn't be doing that. They are promoting national sovereignty, not just our own, but other nations too, wherever they can help. A genuinely global technocratic administration would normalize rule by experts and administrators over self-government. They would continue deindustrialization in the name of global efficiency. They would universalize the national interest so that every foreign problem becomes America's burden. They would treat energy, borders, and industrial policy as secondary to global governance goals. But this administration isn't doing that. This administration believes that sovereignty is explicit. In this administration, sovereignty is explicit. Reindustrialization is explicit. Middle-class restoration is explicit. Burden shifting, saying, Europe, you're going to have to take care of yourself, is explicit. Forever wars, regime change, and nation building are rejected. Sovereignty dissolving, anti-nation state transnationalism is being condemned. Reciprocal trade, rather than free trade, is being promoted. Domestic production is being prioritized. And administrative overreach is being checked in the courts. Right, Summer? This is what you just pointed out with the Southern Poverty Law Center. Mm-hmm. If Trump was a technocrat, he wouldn't be allowing the SPLC to be exposed.
Yeah.
If Trump was a technocrat, he would have left USAID right where it is. Now, that doesn't mean that every policy position that the administration takes is above criticism. It does mean that the broad charge of this is a global technocracy rising, being completed, is too blunt, too stale, and too inattentive to the evidence. And as you've said many times, and I agree, and it's right on point, it causes people to feel despair. Mm-hmm. God's people are never called to despair. We're called to see clearly, repent honestly.
Well, not only does it cause them to despair, but it causes them not to get out and vote in the midterms.
Right. Despair would cause people to disengage. So I was going back to the first principle. What would cause people to disengage and reject Trump now? Despair would cause them to disengage. So yes, you're right. I was just trying to go back to the grounding principle.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that God, what the devil meant for evil, God can use for good. And I've said this before a couple of times, but it's pertinent to say it again right now, that think about how funny that is, that, the globalists, they have built this whole system, toiled and worked for 100 years at least, building this system, this cage around us, this panopticon, this potential I got you moment where they've got everybody colonized in a neo-serf class. And remember, we've talked to you about the empire of the city, which has been where, the major power hubs have been concentrated. And that's Washington, D.C. traditionally, London, and Vatican. Well, they didn't count on the military arm of their operation in the United States under the Trump administration going rogue now, did they? And so, we've used our military might. They've put all of the cards into the hands of Washington, and now that military might is being utilized against them. So talk about, creating something to accomplish evil, but then God can turn around and use it for good to put them out of power.
Exactly. Wood writes here, Americans tell themselves about social credit scores, the gamification of obedience, the control grid. Americans tell themselves this can't happen here. They're wrong. That's true. It can happen here. The question is, what's happening right now?
Well, yeah, if Kamala Harris was in office right now, sure.
If people listen to this, they're going to, someone like that's going to be right back in there in 2028. Wood says the infrastructure for a Western social credit system is already in place. It simply operates under different names and through different mechanisms. And he will try to convince you that Donald Trump is setting that social credit system up, that he is completing that control grid. That causes despair. That causes people to disengage.
And let's just put our thinking caps on. And it's not true. Let's just put our thinking caps on for one little second here. Have we not watched that when people are truly speaking the truth and it makes somebody that's in power uncomfortable, what happens with that? They go after they character assassinate that person. Maybe they debank them. Maybe they end their life. So why is it so shocking to think that there wouldn't be a huge psychological operation designed just to convince the American public and the world, for that matter, that the Trump administration and what they're doing and the American system of political economy, that's all evil. That's all evil. How convenient is that? I mean, really, it's so outrageous. I'm just saying, we've watched it a million times where they go after people that they don't like what they're saying. They deplatform them. They character assassinate them. They go after their bank account.
That's true. I thought I would share this. Oh boy. It's like the Promethean book. What can President Trump do with the American System 2.0? It's not, it's an old link, but that's all right. There are many reasons for hope right now. Someone is always out there leading you into confusion, wanting you to be so skeptical of everything that you stop believing in anything. And so if you're listening to that, people who are encouraging angst in you, again, what's the fruit of this wisdom? How do you feel when you come away from it? Mm-hmm. Do you feel empowered?
No.
Do you feel closer to Christ?
You feel like you just want to curl up in a ball and,
Well, if that's how you feel when you come away from someone's material, seriously reconsider what their purpose may be. Consider the kinds of responses what stuff that we've talked about here. What is the fruit of this wisdom, and what is the problem they're trying to solve? What is the problem Patrick Wood is trying to solve? I might say that generously, I would say he's trying to solve the problem of technocracy existing. But I don't know how. I'm never really sure how he proposes that technocracy would be done away with. Anyway, what Summer has said is really the point that I want to leave you with today. Optimism. There are plenty of reasons for hope today. God's people are not called to despair. We're called to see clearly, repent honestly, act faithfully, and to trust God confidently. And if you find things in the administration, I'm talking about not in Trump himself, I'm saying in the policies. What we've been taught to do today is to judge the person. And the old logical fallacy of ad hominem, right? Put the argument on the man. That's false. That's a fallacy. You need to focus on the argument. the actual policies and what's being done. Anyway, what does all this mean for us right now? This is what you really want to know. What do you do with this information? Because as I'm sitting here criticizing other people for not giving you solutions, let me not fail to give you a solution. First of all, we can acknowledge past failures, real corruption, the dangers of centralized power. These things are real, but we can acknowledge those things exist, and we can still say God is not finished. Our institutions are not irredeemable. The system is not beyond recovery. And we can say, because we trust God, that this moment may represent not perfection, but a correction. Listen carefully. This does not mean that every policy is right. This does not mean that Trump is the savior. It doesn't mean that everything he says or does is wise. And it doesn't mean that the outcome of restoring sovereignty to America and the American system of economy, it doesn't mean that that's guaranteed. What it does mean is that we have evidential reasons to be optimistic, to be positive, because we're seeing right now from our leaders in America, we're seeing a rejection of endless wars. You would say, but look at Iran, right? How do you get to the circumstances where there would be no more endless wars, no more global war on terror, no more bogged down in the Middle East? You have to remove the cause. And Iran was the cause of that. So that's what you're seeing. You're seeing a rejection of those policies. You're seeing a reassertion of national sovereignty. You're seeing a challenge to the administrative state. You're seeing a challenge to the technocratic control grid that Wood is writing about here. He's saying it's inevitable. You're seeing a renewed focus on the American people. These are not small things. These are substantial structural shifts. And if you can't recognize the difference between corruption and correction, if you can't recognize the difference between decline and restoration, controlled disintegration and reindustrialization, if you can't tell the difference between judgment and renewal, then we're not being cautious, we're being blind. And here's the final point. This moment before us today is not just something to sit back and observe. It's something that we must steward as Christians. Our liberty is a good gift that should be stewarded. Micah does not say, sit back and wait. He says, I will look to the Lord. In other words, he acts in faith. And so was me. So was me. So must we. Because if this, as we're telling you, with the evidence, if this is a moment of reordering and realignment and restoration, a reassertion of our sovereignty, then we have a responsibility to engage in it, to understand it, and to shape it. Not for political gain. We have a responsibility to do this for the glory of God, because America as founded is worth defending, and our liberty was a gift, a good gift of God, and it's also a covenant, and a covenant requires something of the one who receives it. Liberty is not just a political inheritance. Liberty is a stewardship. And if God in his providence has given us this moment, a real opportunity to correct error, to restore order in America, and to reassert truth, then if we respond to it with despair, that's not humility, that's being unfaithful. So yes, we have good reasons to be optimistic. There are many reasons for hope right now. But more than that, that's what we're called to as Christians. We're called to be optimistic. Because when the times seem they're at their darkest, the Lord is still our light. And my friends, the last thing I want to say to you, this may be our moment to rise. And as long as the Lord gives us breath to do it, and as long as anyone out there will listen to us, we certainly don't expect to be popular with this kind of analysis, but as long as any of you out there will listen to us, we will tell you the truth, grounded in Scripture. And Micah 7:8 tells us what our response should be right now. Shouldn't be despair. Shouldn't be fear and suspicion and disengagement. We should look for the good things that we can support and support them. Forget about the character of the individuals. What is the basis of the truth? What is the basis of the policy? What is the underlying philosophy, and does it align with something that God can bless? And we're telling you that the philosophy underlying this administration from these people that I've been sharing with you, these thinkers and these scholars who are advising the administration, what they're saying is grounded in goodness, natural law, natural rights, things that God can bless.
Grounded in moral reality.
Exactly. Yes. Moral reality. That's an important statement. That's an important way to put it. I'm glad you said that. It is grounded in moral reality. It is a rejection of the technocratic global
It's a rejection of your truth is your truth and my truth is my truth and moral relativism that is really sent to steal, kill, and destroy.
All right, that's probably as long as we should go. It was a good time, though.
Yeah.
Okay, my friends, we invite you, please, to support the work we do here, if you can.
And thank you so much to Lamb's Grace. She said that she recommended our channel and Promethean updates in some comment sections. So thank you so much. We appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks to, let's see, Crystal for being here. Good to see you, Crystal. Crystal was watching on the TV tonight. Oh, boy.
That's awesome.
I should have put on makeup.
Good to see you, Crystal.
Yeah, thanks, Lamb's Grace, for sharing our work. She says also it's sad what happened to Tucker. I love Javier Milei. He is quite an interesting character. Yeah. You know, something that you see in Milei a lot. I don't know what his condition is or what his faith is or anything, but he always seems to be joyful. Mm-hmm. Everywhere I've seen him angry at evil things before, but he always seems to be joyful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you, folks, for being with us here tonight. Anything left? Anything else you want to say?
I just invite you guys, if you have any questions about the things that we've said tonight, I invite you to come to armoroftruth.net. That will take you directly to our Substack, and we have all kinds of articles in the archive and also in the Substack notes where I've tried to provide just a plethora of data points for you guys to check out and follow up on your own, and to just kickstart you into your own research into these things. Tried to provide you guys with as many links and articles and books and videos and lectures to come along with this on this journey. And please give it a like, please give it a share. Share it around, and that's about it. Yeah, I think, again, if you have any questions, and also feel free to email us at hello@armoroftruth.net, and we would be happy to hear from you and answer any questions. For example, if you wanted to send us a question, do that, and we will answer it on the next show. So don't be shy. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, reach out to us, hello@armoroftruth.net. You can leave a comment under this video. And if you would, please, folks, please hit the like button and again, thanks to Lamb's Grace, please share this around. There is no other way that anyone's going to find out about us unless you guys tell them. There's no other way.
Yeah, we've got the mobile app. If you don't have the mobile app, download it. Because that's how you know that we come on live, because YouTube's not going to tell you when we go live. Apparently, they don't send out a notification typically, so.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me get this up here so people can see this. Yes, definitely take a moment to like this video and share it. Where are our ads? There you go. There we go. That'll work. Download the Armor of Truth mobile app today, my friends. We do. We have our own mobile app. It's not a Discord. It's our own mobile app. And if once we get enough people on there willing to interact, we can set up something just like that they do on Discord. You guys can interact with one another. It has those features. If you'd like something like that, let us know. Send us an email and let us know. You can also contact us right through the mobile app. That app is 100% free, and it always will be. You get live notifications, direct link whenever we go live, wherever we go live, and you can read our articles right there on the app without having to fool with this Substack app or website. You get exclusive content, articles, and reports and resources. Tracking Dystopia podcast is over there too, and you have some Bible study podcasts as well. There's Bible versions. We have half a dozen Bible versions you can read and an audio Bible that you can listen to. And if you can support Armor of Truth financially, every gift of any amount makes a difference. You can use that Armor of Truth mobile app Give tab. Visit our website, armoroftruth.net, to donate. My name is Brad, and I have been joined here tonight by my lovely, my precious wife, Summer. Together, we're Armor of Truth, and we're seeking a worldview revolution through God's revelation.
Faith is resistance.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys. Thank you. God bless you.
Faith is resistance. Armor Globalism.